see. It don't look like it. Okay. I'm going to do a report tonight on the problem with advertisers pulling out of YouTube, and also talk about the airline problem, because basically the purpose of that, you know, it just bothers me. Of course, you know, my main theme is campaign finance reform, stopping the campaign finance corruption. If you can't stop it, well, at least term limits, you know, and that's another issue, but term limits or circumventing the corruption in one way or another. You know, so much awareness, public awareness of campaign finance corruption that everybody quits voting for all the candidates who take money. You know, it's either reform or circumventing it, the corruption, which is my basic theme. And it bothers me that the corruption has caused so much lack of customer sovereignty in the country. It just seems like, you look at the way things were, you know, back in the 60s when the customer was always right. Look at the bars, the way they throw people out left and right. Every regular customer, they throw them out. And this United Airlines thing is a good example. And so I want to talk about that. The first thing I want to talk about is the advertisers pulling out of YouTube. They said there was, I guess the way I understand it, there was a racist video somewhere, but someone put on, I don't think it was well known, or I don't think they were a major contributor to YouTube, I don't know, but somehow they put advertisements on videos all over the place, thousands of videos, and apparently they got one on the wrong one, I don't know, and then I get it, Wall Street Journal or somebody did a report on it. Of course that freaked them out, and everybody started pulling their videos off of YouTube. Well, I'm trying to figure out this hysteria thing. I mean, is it a result of certain incidents that have gone before? I mean, there seemed like there was a big, you know, they had the thing with North Carolina where the LGBT law that, you know, was adversarial to the LGBT crusade, which had to do with bathrooms. And so there was a big public opposition, boycott or something of teams coming into North Carolina. Somehow they kept a lot of money out of North Carolina. I think Bruce Springsteen and somebody refused to perform there. You know, and that brings money into corporate America. I mean, it has, in a way, because if he goes in there, you know, and Denny's, a bunch of people stop at Denny's on the way home from the concert, I mean, it's money. So I suppose they're just afraid of this mass hysteria against anything that's not politically correct. They're afraid there'll be a big boycott or a massive pullout, or, you know, boycott of their products or whatever. Or, you know, or I wonder, I mean, it could be that, or is it just a thing of, you know, the YouTube is so adversarial to corporate America, and they bring out talk about the campaign finance corruption. I noticed two of them they blacklisted that talked an awful lot about the military-industrial complex, which has to do with campaign money coming into Congress, where they support a war. Campaign money expedites the war, or fuels the war essentially, where it's inefficient and the war doesn't accomplish what it's supposed to, and it doesn't accomplish it in an efficient way. Too many people get killed, so on and so on. Where if you stop the campaign money and just public interest in the war and trying to stop Kim Jong-il or whoever without campaign money and the corporate America profiting. It seems to be that a lot of the media doesn't want to hear that. CNN pulled the plug on somebody. One of the senators wants to talk about the military-industrial complex and how it fueled wars. They just shut him up. So I don't know whether they're pulling out for that reason. It doesn't look like it. It doesn't appear to be that. I know that Bill Maher had the same problem with advertisers. He was on ABC, politically incorrect. That came on the weekend. Not sure. It was like Saturday night. I don't remember. But he knocked corporate America pretty good. You know, he made there were people on there criticizing corporate America, KFC, I heard one on them. And so the sponsors went to the corporation that owned ABC. I don't know who it was, or the head of ABC, I don't know, but I think Disney then. And they shoved him off. Well, what he did, he went to HBO, but he said the reason he could be on HBO is because he got his own sponsors. In other words, apparently he found sponsors that support campaign finance reform, that aren't embedded with corruption. And I'm just wondering if people on YouTube, if they want to be safe from now on. I mean, a lot of them are off the blacklist, that are back on, you know, YouTube without getting their sponsors. But I wonder if there's some that aren't, if it's possible, if they could find out who Bill Maher's sponsors were, or exactly what he did to get his own sponsors, how he found them, so on, so on. If that would be any help to YouTube, I don't know. I'm just guessing. But anyway, the second thing is the United Airlines problem. And what I have to say about that, you have basically a problem with the airlines giving campaign, and Ralph Nader brought this out, that they're giving campaign money to Congress. And they also seem to have a pretty good stronghold over the FAA, because back in the 90s there was some pilot, Al Haynes, who crash landed airplanes, saved about half the people on it. He did a good job, the best he could, with a damaged airplane, the same way Sully Sullenberger did, really. And they were wondering, hey, why come he's got to retire in 3 years? He's a good pilot. And so they did a survey, and it turned out that actually pilots make fewer mistakes between 60 and 65 than they do before they're 60. And they went to the FAA and asked about that. They said, well, why are you forcing mandatory retirement on pilots at 60? Of course, the guy answered, he said, well, because they make more mistakes. Pilots make more mistakes after age 60. They said, well, they pulled out the survey. They said, that's just false. There's no survey anywhere that said that. The survey actually said that pilots are actually safer. Well, it turns out the FAA wants to fire older pilots so they can hire cheap younger ones and make the airlines more dangerous and screw pilots over that ought to be making a whole lot of money between 60 and 65 that aren't getting it, and hire those younger pilots. And, well, so why is the FAA in bed with them? Well, probably either perks, campaign money, revolving door, I don't know what. One of those things, or some other, evil trick they've come up with, evil corruption, that I haven't heard about yet. Well, anyway, if the FAA has this much control over the airlines, or the airlines have that much control of the FAA, I mean, that's probably why United, I mean, you look at it, and it seems like the customer has no rights whatsoever, and the airline has all the rights. I mean, you have two cases. One of them had to do, with an airline, and I don't really want to mention the name of it. There's somebody on YouTube recently, they were going to a funeral, the flight attendant kept bullying them for about 20 minutes, and this lawyer that represented this Dao, who was kicked, dragged down the aisle on his plane in Chicago, at the Chicago airport, the lawyer representing basically said the same thing I am. They're just bullies. That's all they are. They're just bullying anybody and everybody that comes on there. Well, the flight attendant bullied this lady for about 4 or 5 times until she finally got mad and said, why don't you do your job right? So the next thing they know, they called the police and went to the pilot. The pilot called cops on them. They dragged her off the plane. So basically it's an ambush. I mean, here's how the airlines operate. I mean, you buy a ticket, think you're going to get a flight somewhere. All that happens is you're going to get bullied by a flight attendant 4 or 5 times. So you finally tell them off. Then they're going to go to the pilot. They're going to have you taken off the plane by police. You're probably going to be mad at the police. So you're going to complain to the police. And then they're going to charge you with disorderly conduct. Which basically, disorderly conduct, the way the statute's worded, anything that pisses off a policeman. Anything that makes me mad. Essentially, that's the way the cop sees it. So it's 100%. You're sucked in. Anybody and everybody that gets on an airplane is going to end up in jail if a flight attendant bullies them. So, I mean, it's an ambush. It's like in Vietnam, when you open the door and your leg blows off. And you find some house someplace and you want to see who's inside and, your arm blows off. That's an ambush. That's exactly what it is. That's all the airlines are. Until they make some law that says you can't be thrown off a plane if you drink too many drinks or you're a little bit loud, and the customer next to you complains, they can't throw you off. They can't throw you off unless you've done something criminal. And just talking back to a flight attendant is not criminal conduct. Unless they make a law like that, people shouldn't fly. And if this United case, unless this airline gets boycotted, and this goes on a long time, they're not going to change anything. I mean, they say Trump's getting in there making laws. I hope he is. I don't know if he is or not. But people need to keep boycotting airlines that treat people this way. They keep needing to film them, and when they do, stay off of them. Fly Delta. Delta has offered up to $2,000, a bidding thing, where up to $2,000 for anybody kicked off an overbooked flight. They get $2,000, and everybody's fighting over them. You know, they want the $2,000 because Delta's a generous airline, and they allow leggings on Delta. United hasn't changed either one of those things. And they've also made, on airlines, some of them have adopted a policy where they won't throw anyone off once they're on the plane. United hasn't done that at all yet, as far as I know. They've even kicked 3 people off. They even had one flight after this where some guy had bought it, where they had a priority customer, so they kicked one customer off and put the priority customer in his seat because he was a regular customer and they knew he was going to come back. So they threw it wasn't the first time flyer, they threw him off. You have got to be kidding. I mean, United isn't changing. If you listen to that darn CEO and his apology, his first apology was, well, you went way beyond the airport security, went way beyond the call of duty and kicking this belligerent passenger off the plane. He only apologized because he had to. And if anyone thinks, does it make sense that they're really going to change anything unless this airline gets boycotted and almost goes under? And this goes along, or this Dao decides to file a lawsuit instead of settling, because it'll be in the media a long time. If there's a lawsuit, it'll be in the media. And if Dao really wants to change society and get freedom for everybody on airplanes, he needs to file a lawsuit. Okay. Let's see. I did that one. End up jail due to disorderly conduct. Overbooking in the form of, the next thing, there's also been a lot of arguments about whether this Dao, who was kicked off the flight in Chicago, has a claim against United. And there was some sort of conservative talking man who was on CBS who said that Dao doesn't have a claim because the airline is going to come back and say, hey, these are independent contractors, or this was another business. They were not airport security, they were not employees of United. They work for the airport, and therefore we have no idea how they're going to treat a customer. We don't know anything about it. We did not walk up to them and tell them how to treat this customer. So therefore, we have it's not on us, it's on the airport security. Well, I beg to differ with that. I mean, I don't have that much legal knowledge. But I do know that in my opinion, there's negligence involved. Because what is negligence case? It's something that a reasonably prudent person wouldn't do under the same or similar circumstances, or the failure to do something that a reasonably prudent person would do under the same or similar circumstances, and also, what's the word? I can't think of it. Anyway, foreseeability. Yeah, there's foreseeability in the case. All those 3 of those things, and I'm thinking you do have, if there were, you had a case on the People's Court with Judge Wapner, who dealt with that. And of course that is, like this thing said, loosely based on principles of California law. Other states may or not be similar. But a lot of times they are similar. And there was a case where someone had hired an independent contractor to cut trees, and he chopped the tree limb down and fell on a car and damaged it. And then he was arguing, well, who's the real party in interest here? Is it the independent contractor, or is it the woman, that had her tree cut? And Judge Wapner said it had to do with whether or not the lady told him, hey, climb up there, trim off that branch right now, do it right now, I need it off of there. Where he went out and did everything she said, and the way she said it, and it landed on the car. Then the lady be responsible, even though he's an independent contractor. He's not an employee of hers. Well, I'm trying to think, isn't this the same thing? I mean, in law, if you think about it, what about the pilot when he's sitting there thinking, we have a man here who's belligerent, and there's ways of getting him off, and one might be to call the local police, who are far better trained, and there's more restrictions on police, or do you call security guards, which anyone knows security guards, They don't have any restrictions on them. They don't have any training, and and basically they operate like the Italian fascist police and the Nazi Gestapo, and they do whatever they want. And to me, the decision to call them is almost like that lady telling someone, is that something a reasonably prudent person would do when you got someone that's mad? You know there's going to be a fight. And he knows what security guards are like. I mean, anyone knows what they're like. Anyone that's ever dealt with them. So in my opinion, there was foreseeability that there's going to be a fight, and that's not something that a reasonably prudent person would do under the same or similar circumstances to avoid a fight or avoid someone getting hurt. And it's just like that, the lady telling the guy how to trim the trees, in my opinion. He could have chosen someone else to come in there. And the other thing is, I think United committed a fraud when they told, in my opinion, if the guy comes up there and buys a ticket, and they tell that, and they don't get right in his face and tell him, hey, this is a 10 ticket, you might make it to your place this day, or you might have to go the next day, or you might have to wait 2 or 3 hours on another flight. They didn't do that, and they said it was in the fine print. Well, okay, isn't that fraud? I mean, he didn't know, and they knew he didn't know, right? Well, what about cases like Martha Stewart with securities fraud? Can she sell all of her stocks, and when she knows the company's going bankrupt the next day, and then write out a contract and put something on the other side of the contract where the guy doesn't see it, and then sell all her stock and commit securities fraud and get away with it? I mean, can you sell a car, change the miles back, put on a bill of sale someplace where the guy doesn't see it, a little tiny print, and say, hey, I put the miles back on this thing? I don't think they let people do that. Well, why the hell are they letting United do it? That's just stupid. It doesn't make sense at all. I mean, fraud ought to be based on a meeting of the minds. You didn't have a meeting of the minds here. And if you didn't have a meeting of the minds, in my opinion, United committed fraud, and he should be able to get punitive damages. Most states you get punitive damages for malice, oppression, and fraud. And also, we could prove the pilot was mad at the guy and picked security guards because he knew they were bullies. That's malice. So, I mean, I think they've got claims on both of those things, and I'm not sure. But anyway, I think that was about everything I wanted to say, I think. The main thing, I think if people want to really get anything done about the airlines, though, they need to keep on boycotting airlines that treat people this way, whatever airline it is. That means fly Delta, where they're offering it up to $2,000 and they're allowing leggings. Delta seems to be the good guys. They seem to be the one everybody ought to be flying. And Trump may make some reforms. I hope he does. But main purpose of this is just consumer sovereignty. I mean, the idea being that if everyone got on YouTube and said everything I did and made the public so aware of the law and the fairness and justice and how the law works in British common law and how fair and just it is, and everybody, man, woman, child, was aware of it, the lawyers, and the courts and everyone else are going to be influenced, I would think. But of course, just me getting 50 hits isn't going to do any good. But I know the people that are watching me are really choice people, more than likely. But it does bother me that I can only get 100 hits, and I don't know why. Yeah, I can't get any more, but I don't know, that's another problem, which I'll try to figure out sometime. But anyway, I guess that's it, and thanks for watching.